Good afternoon. I'm Dara Bunjon. I am the food enthusiast here at More Living. I'm a food writer, food stylist, PR maven, and a very frustrated baker. Thank you for tuning in today, and you are invited to participate in this live interview by posting your questions in the comment section. You'll see me turn time to time, checking in to see if there are any questions or comments that we need to acknowledge. I Heart Kosher, the new Kosher, the modern menu, and the just released The Modern Table, Kosher Recipes for Everyday Gatherings are today's guest cookbooks that ups the ante on kosher recipes fit for any table, not only the kosher ones. From the days at her Moroccan-born mother's table to summers in Israel, Kim Kushner, our guest, knows how to brighten any table with not only tempting recipes to dressing them up themselves. Let's welcome Kim.
Hello.
Hello, Kim. What's on your plate today?
Oh my goodness. A lot.
Okay, so I'm lucky you're squeezing us in, and I appreciate that so much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
The Modern Table is a very elegant cookbook, and I'm just going to show it real quick. Let's see. There we go. And you see my stickers, people, because I'm going to try to show you some pages as best we can. There we go. I think if I lean back. The cookbook is quite elegant. It's beautifully photographed. One might keep it on their coffee table. It's that beautiful if they weren't busy cooking the recipes. What was your inspiration for this book? What did you set out to accomplish?
I really wanted to create a book that combined my passion for simple, everyday, flavorful, easy recipes, along with my passion for entertaining and gathering people around a table. So this is a book I've always wanted to make and produce, and I'm really happy with the outcome.
Well, I have to say kudos to you because you're a mother of four. You're doing this. You're teaching cooking classes and everything else that went along with this. Had you started prior to COVID, or was this a COVID project?
This is a project that was always in my mind. I always wanted to create an entertaining cookbook, but it was really during the downtime, in the height of COVID, that I had the time to put my ideas into words and start planning for creating the book.
Well, we're lucky that we're benefiting from that. So hopefully Kim went out. Hopefully she'll come back in. There she is.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. It happens. Technology, we love it. Your mother's home, always people at the table. This explains your opinion on your introduction. The first line in bold letters on the introduction in the book is "Food is love." Truer words were never said. I mean, it's just how I feel. And I think you get that across with the entertaining in the book and bringing people to the table. There's always an extra chair. I take it your mother's home was like my mother's home. Whoever wanted to come for dinner, there was always a chair. There was always food. So did she set the table? Was she as exacting, not exacting, or did she like to set a beautiful table? You like to do a beautiful table. What was her table like?
So yes, my mom always was very creative and loved to set a beautiful table, and she would take out the fine china for the holidays. But I think her style was maybe a little bit more formal than mine is. But definitely my inspiration came from my mother.
As a mother of four, as we discussed before, are all four of your children avid eaters? Are they picky eaters? Do any of them want to cook?
So they're all great eaters, and I've introduced them to everything when they were small. I never made a different meal for the babies. It was always whatever we were eating was pureed for the babies. And, you know, some of them are more passionate about food than others. My middle son, I say he eats to live. He doesn't live to eat. My eldest loves food. He loves cooking. And the younger two are great eaters, but they're not. Their passion, I haven't learned yet if they're passionate about food or not, but certainly they're all great eaters.
Well, that's great. I was a picky eater as a child. And I might have told this story before. If I said I'd like something, I got it every day for lunch until I just stopped doing it.
Right.
And I would come home with it. My sister said, "Why don't you, stupid? Why don't you just throw it away?" You know, I didn't want to eat it. So good thing. And I think my mother tried that with us, but I just was picky. And in those days, I didn't gain weight.
Right.
Not the same days. Any new spices or herbs that have recently entered your cooking vocabulary? I mean, I just found the black garlic in Trader Joe's.
Right.
And have you found anything new? Uferbiber? What's going on with spices with you?
So I like to stick to what I always use. I use a lot of herbes de Provence. I use a lot of turmeric, saffron I love. But something that somebody recently brought me was dried pomegranate flour, which is the flour from the pomegranate. And they brought it from Morocco, and you crumble it between your fingers. And it's beautiful red color, and it adds a mild, fruity taste. So I love using that. And I also use a lot, not a lot, but I like to finish some dishes with dried rose petals. That's something that I just love. Whether, you know, if I'm serving sliced melon, I'll crumble a little bit over the top, even over salads or over a simple sponge cake. I love using the dried rose petals.
I saw that in one of the salads. And as you said, not to go overboard with it. It can be.
That is very important. Yes.
Right. And do you use much sumac? Because that's that same sort of tart thing that you would get.
So I love sumac in finishing cold dishes. Let's say it's like a hummus or tahini with a little sumac to finish. I don't love cooking with it as much because it really releases the color. I remember I once made I think I marinated the fish with the sumac, and the fish turned very purple. So I'm always careful with that.
I'm trying to see if I'm getting any other questions here. I got a hello from Randy. Let's see. I can't seem to get the mouse working. So there we go. Bear with me. All right, let me get back to this. I don't want to get too lost on that. Some of the recipes that caught my eye was the honeydew with sea salt and lime poppy seed drizzle. And I've always been a proponent. I've told people, I said, put salt on your melons. It makes it sweet. They go, oh, I don't. I said, trust me. And so I'm glad to see that you're doing that here. Other ones, the fennel pomegranate parsley salad with lemon and za'atar. That looked yummy. The seared salmon bite with jalapeno and ponzu. So I noticed that you use a lot of ginger, a lot of Asian flavors in some of your recipes. One that really caught my eye that I'm going to dig into is the chicken thighs with red onion and fig sauce.
Yes.
How did that one come about?
So you know what? The truth is, I don't recall exactly how that one came about, but usually the way most of my recipes come about is me opening the fridge or the pantry and seeing what's available to me and working with it. I always have red onions stocked in the fridge. I certainly often have bags of dried figlets, so I'm sure it was some sort of last minute throwing things together. And I love the sweetness of the onions, works well with the figs. But in general, the recipes that you'll find in the book are very inspired by cuisines from around the world. I cook a lot. I used to travel a lot, and I try to experiment with all different flavors and different, flavors from different cultures really inspire me. So I try to incorporate that through the pages of the book.
Do you happen to remember the first thing you ever cooked?
Oh my goodness. I used to help my mom a ton in the kitchen. We're three sisters, and we were always helping my mom out in the kitchen. But I can't remember what the first thing I cooked my all by myself was.
I just want to show, let's see if we can get this up here, some of the pictures. And this was the Shabbat dinner. Now, what I want to explain and what you said is that this is a cookbook first and then kosher recipes second.
Right.
And explain for those who might not know, I never know with my audience, what's the difference between Jewish food and kosher food?
So I think it's a great question, and I think there's often a lot of gray area and some confusion. So kosher food really refers to some dietary restrictions from the Bible, where there are certain things we can and cannot eat, and there are certain preparations for food. So when you say, I keep a kosher diet, it's not different from saying, you know, I keep a gluten-free diet or I keep a vegetarian diet. It is, you know, a diet with certain things you can and cannot eat. But people often confuse kosher food with kosher cuisine. And I think kosher cuisine, many people think of it as what Jewish cuisine would be. And these are like the Eastern European recipes that were brought to America, whether it's matzo ball soup or things like deli foods, pastrami, corned beef, knishes. People sometimes mistaken Jewish food with kosher food. And really kosher cuisine can be many, many things. You know, we do have some restrictions when it comes to kosher diet, but there's so much we can work with. And I've always kept kosher diet and I've always cooked kosher. And that's how I really started writing cookbooks, because I wanted to write a beautiful kosher cookbook. I wanted to write a cookbook that had wonderful, easy, simple recipes that happened to be kosher, and a cookbook that looked as beautiful, if not more beautiful, than some non-kosher cookbooks. And at the time when I started, the kosher cookbooks were very simple. Many of them did not even have photos in them. And so that's where this whole cookbook journey began.
I have a question. It says, how much of an influence did your mom's Moroccan background have on your approach to your cooking?
So very much. It's not only in the style of cooking, but it's in the Moroccan culture, which is primarily known for their hospitality and their generosity. And I visited Morocco, and you would walk past people's homes in the street and they would invite you in for a cup of tea. That's how my parents' home always was. My mother would see the rabbi walking down the street or a neighbor walking down the street, and they would be summoned into the household to join us for a meal. And then, of course, there's the flavors and the color. I remember the first time my husband, who's an Ashkenazi American Jew, came to my parents' house for a meal. He said, I've never seen so much color on a table, because the food is colorful and it's flavorful and it's spicy and there's a lot of everything and it's a mishmash. So I'm certainly very, very inspired by my mother's background.
Well, I think, people think of kosher and some of these recipes are just for holidays. And I think, as Bruce Weinstein said, Jews have to eat all year round.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Love Bruce and Mark, and I listened to your interview there, and I went, that was perfect. The book's mantra, as best as I can gather it, these are the things that you're suggesting people to always start with the best ingredients, review the recipe, stay organized, take a few risks.
Yes.
And, I think part of this, if you don't like cilantro, use parsley.
Right.
Go ahead.
I've taught a lot of cooking classes, and I'll complete the entire demonstration and somebody will raise their hand and say, looks really good, but I can't make this recipe because there's cilantro in it and I don't eat cilantro. And it always amazes me, because you have like these incredibly talented, accomplished people taking the classes. And I would say to them, you can make it and you could just leave out the cilantro, or you could substitute it with something that you prefer. And I think that when people read a recipe, they think they need to look at it as though it's the letter of the law and follow every single step. And that's not the way a recipe should be approached, specifically when it's cooking food and not baking. Baking is a little more tricky, but when it comes to cooking, you can absolutely switch things and make it your own and look at a recipe, read it, and then decide, how can I make it so that me and my family or my guests will love it?
I agree with you. That's why baking is such a torture for me,
Right.
because it is a science.
Right.
And if something goes wrong, well, I don't know how to fix it, though I was
Right.
on a radio program a long time ago. And somebody said they were making brownies
Mm-hmm.
and they put in too much oil and butter. What can I do? So we put in double the amount. It should have been there. What can I do? I said, go get another package
Right.
and add it.
Right.
That was the best I could do. Let me try to show this. I mean, the book and the recipes, there we go. I'm not doing it justice, but it is a gorgeous book, and anybody who loves to cook, it would be well worth their time to invest in the book. And just to remind people, you can find anything that Kim is doing at kimkushner.com. Her social is Kim Kushner Cuisine. And the book that I keep showing is The Modern Table, Kosher Recipes for Everyday Gatherings. So let's see where I am on the list of the news. So, okay. You have, we talked about it before, you have a whole section in the book on tablescapes. And obviously the pictures that I've shown gave an idea, but also entertaining. And also concepts for children.
Mm-hmm.
There's more to this book than just the recipes. Mm-hmm. And if you'd like to entertain the last minute or even plan it out, this is the book for you. Mm-hmm. And that is the MS, as we would say, is it not? Okay.
I really wanted to demonstrate in the book how there is a way to host a beautiful meal and enjoy yourself while doing it. Because I think that at the end of the day, that's the key. If you're not enjoying yourself when you're having company or even feeding your family, it really takes away so much, and you get so much more out of it when you can enjoy it. So I think of this book sort of as a guide to entertaining and enjoying yourself, keeping it simple. And I give lots of tools and tips and suggestions, and every recipe also has hints at the bottom of it, or of what parts of the recipe, if perhaps the complete recipe, you can make ahead of time, how you can store it, how you can freeze it, how you could reheat it, so that it's very, very user friendly, and it demonstrates that you can gather people around a beautiful meal and enjoy yourself doing so.
Right. You have jarred items like garlic confit, nut and honey jars, flavored vodka, quick preserved lemons. And then there's even a section, what I call the leftovers, which you can do if you have this leftover. I do have a question about, let me find it, a French brick roast. Now, that's a cut I had never heard of before, and I guess because I don't keep a kosher home, and whether it has to do with the kosher laws as to what part of the animal that you eat, can you describe what a French brick roast is?
So it can be called a French roast or a brick roast. I guess different places will call it different things. It's not too dissimilar from the brisket, although it's similar shape as a brisket, but thinner. I'm not sure, to be honest, which part it comes from, but it is less expensive than a brisket, and it can come in smaller sizes as well as bigger sizes, and it's a very versatile piece of meat that should be slow cooked.
Right, just like you would do a brisket.
Right,
or
so
a
this
chuck roast.
recipe for the perfect, it's a coffee rubbed roast, can really be used on any cut of meat for a roast.
I have a couple questions here. We've, let's see. All right, this has to do with restaurants. Okay. Do you have any favorite restaurants in New York for Jewish style foods? And is there a Moroccan restaurant in New York that you would recommend?
Oh my goodness. So I wish I couldn't say a Moroccan restaurant, but I have not yet been to one that I would recommend. And in Jewish style food, I mean, there's the classic Second Avenue Deli is one of the classics. That is always a great place to visit when you come to New York.
Okay, great. And let's see, just making sure here. I just have to play my own technician here
Mm-hmm.
and keep looking. What are your top tips about entertaining?
So the first thing that I would say is keep it simple. This is not the time to try a new recipe. Always go with tried and true. So when you're entertaining, pick recipes that are going to be tried and true and just try to stay organized. The book literally has like a set of guidelines of, stay organized, shopping list, prepare your menu in advance, think about the company you're inviting, do as much as you can ahead of time. It's funny. We have a big Friday night Shabbat dinner every Friday night, and my table is always set on Thursday. Of course, I can rush at the last minute and set my table on Friday, but it gives me one less thing to do when I know I'm going to have so much to prepare on Friday. So that's really my philosophy when it comes to entertaining. Do as much as you can ahead of time. Slice the lemons and the oranges for the water 2 or 3 days before, and these are the hints and the tips that you'll find throughout the book.
Terrific. So we're going to show it one more time.
I have it here also.
Okay, let's double hit them. Okay, there we go. And it's beautiful, and it's just released. I know that you had some delays.
Yep.
What was it, the slow boat from China?
COVID. Everybody's been delayed, but I hope it will be well worth the wait.
Oh, I can assure people that it is. Okay. We were talking. I went to the Fancy Food Show, the International Fancy Food Show, earlier this week. And it comes up with the trends of things that are going on. And there were a number of plant-based substitutes for proteins like seafood and the beef. When I say it was overwhelming how much there was there. Now, I don't know what they put in these and if any of them will be kosher. But if there's a kosher one for popcorn shrimp,
there are a lot of imitation seafood, so I wouldn't be surprised.
yeah, I'll go from there. And let's see. Okay. And another thing that I'm going to talk about, I was going to put at the end of the show, and we talked about it, is to tell people I found this honey, and there are non-stinging bees, and their honey was not only sweet, it was sour. So just a footnote. And after I'm finished this interview, I'm going to go over a couple of items that I saw at the show with the audience. And I'm just checking. I think we've covered all the questions that have come in here. So now we go to my final questions for the interview. If you woke up tomorrow morning and had a new talent, what would it be?
I think maybe to play piano.
Okay. It's funny how people have come up with singing or playing an instrument.
Right.
If you could go back and give your 18-year-old self a piece of advice, what would it be?
Don't believe everything people tell you.
I take it you heard a couple things that weren't for real.
Absolutely.
Okay. What was your epic culinary fail?
Sushi.
Really? Was it just the sushi rice?
The rice and the rolling and no, not for me.
Well, I had friends who had a Asian restaurant. It was mixed. They were Vietnamese, but they did a lot of sushi. And he showed me that the sushi rice has to be cooled down. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people try to work with it while it's hot. They would put fans on it.
Oh, wow.
So just my little tidbit to add to that. Your favorite indulgence?
Wine.
Okay. And the final question is, what didn't I ask you that I should have?
My goodness, you didn't ask me out to dinner.
The next time in New York.
You got it.
You got it. All right. Well, we just found a dim sum place. I wouldn't say it's the best, but
give it a try.
Yeah, well, we have to find a kosher restaurant for you.
Right.
So that'll be on your recommendation. What's it? Something and Daughters.
Oh, Russ and Daughters is
Yeah,
great. Yeah,
yeah.
sure.
Go down there.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, KimKushner.com, Kim Kushner Cuisine on Instagram. The book, The Modern Table, Kosher Recipes for Every Gathering. Kim, I want to thank you. I look forward to the day that we can meet in person
Thank
and we
you.
can chew the chicken fat.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Goodbye now. Okay, everyone, I'm switching and let me go to things from the Fancy Food Show. As I said, I was up there and didn't quite make covering all the Javits Center like years in the past, and there were some aisles I didn't finish in the one-day trip, but there was a preponderance of plant-based proteins, which I said. There's a company that puts out a product called Flock, Flock, and it's a snack, and it's crispy chicken skins. Now, if you're the type of person, when the chicken comes out of the oven and the skin's crispy or that turkey's crispy, that rather than eat the meat, you rather eat the skin, Flock is the thing for you. I don't know where it's being distributed, but I'm sure it's flock.com. You can find it that way. Freshie. Now, Freshie is doing 10 meals, individual meals. This one is Provence niçoise with wild tuna, fire roasted peppers, zesty herbs, potatoes, and olives. They are fabulous. And the amount of calories, this one's only 200. Do this in a salad, you're set to go if you're going camping or out on the road. These are great. So hopefully I will have the gentleman on, Henry Lovejoy, have him on and talk about these meals in the tins. A little bit more than tapas. I talked about the honeys, the non-stinging bees that taste sweet and sour at the same time. Other honeys, there was honey with mastic, there was honey with Greek conifer and orange blossom. And as I said, I am looking forward to having some of these vendors and producers on the show in the near future. Show you another one. This is Matzo Bites. Very cute. We have the Spice Lab came out with seasonings for your side dish. So this is for street corn, and that's by Spice Lab. And for your Instapots, Kapka, if you can see that, has some meals that you do in your Instapot or pressure cookers. They were fabulous. They're vegetarian. I'm not quite the vegetarian person, but you make that, and if you want a protein, fix your chicken, fix whatever protein you might want, or eat this. So Kapka, look them up, hoping to have them on the show. Next week's show, we'll be talking to one of the founders of Bark Social. It's a gathering place for dogs and their humans, with food and drink for both. An upscale dog park for the four-legged friends and their owners. So check that out. Everybody has to eat, even your pets. If you need to reach me, as always, you can email me at food@jamewareliving.com. My social is @DaraCooks. Our shows are archived on jamewareliving.com's website and Jameware Living's Facebook page. So dig back and enjoy the show. Take it your runs, your walks, and even your drives. Just play it on your phone. You don't have to watch, you can listen. We truly appreciate when you share the show with friends and family. It helps the show grow. Happy Father's Day to all the papas out there. So until next week, may your plates always, always remain full.